Hey there, it's Blue here with a nice energetic Hatha flow to help you release tension in the hips and hamstrings after a big walk or run. So let's get started. Okay, so as always, make sure you've got whatever support you need nearby. I highly recommend for this session having 2 blocks at hand and your mat, of course. So we'll get started on our backs. Shift the hips forward, lift the chest, take a deep breath in, and lower yourself down. Let your spine sort of curl down onto the mat, link by link. Let yourself settle in. Shift the shoulders away from the ears and just give yourself some movement here. As always, give yourself a moment to settle in, to explore, and to just get an idea for where you are. What it feels like to be you on this mat in this room for the next 30 minutes. So maybe just becoming more aware of your breath, becoming more aware of any sensations that might have gone unnoticed previously. And noticing if there's any resistance or discomfort or any mental distractions, any thoughts that are ticking over in there that we may not need for the next 30 minutes that we could just let go of. Just surrendering yourself completely into this moment, into your body, into a state of non-judgment. And then start to find your breath, start to deepen the breath. And it doesn't have to be too regimented or strict, but start to find a deeper yogic breath. Feel the front body expand. As you deepen your breath, without controlling where the breath is too much, notice what parts of your body expand, what parts might be resisting, what parts are lengthening, what parts are shortening. And notice as your awareness becomes more and more centered on this moment, on your body in this moment. You'll notice your spine start to flatten out along the mat. You'll notice yourself start to release and surrender in to this form, this lengthening along the mat. And you could have your legs extended away from the body, and that would be fine. I often recommend, or mostly recommend, starting off with the soles of the feet on the ground and the knees bent, just to offer as much lower back support and lengthening as possible. So back to the breath. Just trying to create a steady inhale, exhale. Like I said before, we're not going to get too regimented or too strict on how long to breathe for or where the breath is going to be located. Try to feel the ribs expand a little bit of expansion through the belly as well. So if the front body is completely swelling here. And the inhale just sort of merges into the exhale. Like a ripple, how it ripples in the water, they might sort of, when they hit something, they reform and bounce back. So imagine your breath is like the ripple on the surface of water, just rippling back and forth between 2 points. There's no hold period. There's actually no moment where your exhale or inhale finishes and then begins. Now start to walk the soles of the feet out to the side of the mat, that is. A little bit wider than the hips. And we're just going to press off the right heel and gently lift the right hip. Let the left knee come over to the side, or the left hand side. Put a little bit of pressure through that right heel, but we're not looking to create tension in the lower back here. So it's nice to even push forward or away from the body with the right knee here. or the active leg. Then let's come back up and over to the other side. Once again, this right knee is just falling over, but I'm pressing into the left heel gently, creating a little bit of lift in the hip, and I'm keeping the length in the lower back by pressing away from the body or towards the front edge of the mat with the knee. That's going to create this beautiful front body lengthening. And let's come back over. Press off the right heel. Press away with the right knee. Lengthen the right knee from shoulder to knee, creating as much space as possible. And this is a pretty much all-round, really nice pose. And you might think, what does this have to do with lengthening the hamstrings? Well, we're sort of lengthening the quads and we're activating the hamstrings a little bit. So we're just introducing the body to a bit of lengthening, a bit of warmth in the lower body anyway. And then we'll come back up and find a neutral position here for walking the feet back in towards the midline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my blocks. I'm going to place it in between the knees here. Now I've got mine on the second widest setting, and that's universally pretty good for most people. Some of us might have really narrow hips and might on the shorter setting might be fine. Don't think many of us will be on the widest. So anyway, squeezing into the block. From here, I'm going to walk the feet back towards the body and looking to maybe be able to touch the heels with the longest finger here. We just want the heels underneath the knees. I'm just going to squeeze in. I want to warm the adductors a little bit here. I want to get all the muscles in the thighs really going, especially the hamstrings. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to press into the hamstrings. I'm going to try to sort of point my tailbone towards my knees, so just the lower back is lifting. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down into the heels and I'm going to try to draw my heels back towards my fingertips here. And try not to let the shoulders sort of curl in too much, stay open in the chest. But what I'm doing is I'm squeezing in towards the block, but I'm also, with isometric movement, squeezing back towards my fingertips. So I'm activating the hamstrings here and then lowering down. If that feels fine, if there's no pressure in the lower back, for the purpose of this posture, warming the hamstrings, we might just pinch the toes and bring the feet away from the body, just a touch, maybe a few centimeters. Then we're going to exhale, squeeze down through the navel into the lower back, lengthen the spine, lift the tailbone a little bit, so you'll feel the pelvis sort of, or at least the coccyx, lift away from the mat. And then the lower back will lift away from the mat. And then we can lift up a little bit higher. Because the feet are further away from the body, this is going to challenge the hamstrings a little bit more as we draw the heels back towards the fingertips. Now, if you feel pressure or discomfort in the lower back, you might sort of lower down and bring the heels back towards the body a little bit further. Press the knees away from the body, just like where we were in the twist. And try to touch the heels with the fingers, or the fingers with the heels. Press the knees forward, so this is opening the front body. You're going to feel the hamstrings really warming up here. Take a breath in, and then lower down. Just to remove any tension, let's inhale, open the chest, take a pelvic tilt, let the pelvis roll forward. Front body expand, let the abdominals sort of open up here. Then we're going to contract them, they're going to draw in. So pubic bone and lowest ribs are going to draw together. Tailbone lifts a little bit, press into the heels. Same again. Now I'm squeezing in towards the block. I'm pressing towards the front of the mat or away from my body with the knees. But I'm also drawing my heels back towards my fingertips. So there's a fair bit going on here and you're really going to feel the legs switch on, and that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to get all the muscles involved here. You might even press down into the soles of the feet, activate the arches a little bit. You can even flex back on the toes. Notice how that activates the hamstrings even more. You're going to feel some really nice warmth here. And then lower down. I'm going to do one more of those. Inhale. Let's arch the back first. And exhale. Once again, flowing smoothly from inhale to exhale. Squeeze in towards the block. Press down through the heels. Press the knees away from the body, which is going to lift the hips. Just like we did before. Lift all 10 toes and then squeeze the heels back towards the fingertips here. Deep breath in. Long exhale. Inhale. Try not to place all the weight down through the heels. Try to spread the weight out over the balls of the feet as well. Keep the tailbone tucking. Protect your lower back here, but really squeeze the heels back towards the fingertips. Feel the legs switch on. Take a deep breath in. Lower down here. Straight away, just getting the block out of the way. We're going to bring this right knee in and come up into a nice hamstring stretch here. We're going to do a little variation on it though. So what I'm going to do is walk the heel, the left heel back towards the hip just a little bit so it's nicely rested under the knee there. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to press into the heel. I'm going to lift the tailbone a little bit just like we did before. And then I'm going to, now first things first, what I'm doing is I'm bringing the thigh in towards my lowest ribs here just to make sure I'm not sort of curling in. And once I feel that nice connection with upper thigh and lowest ribs, then I'm going to start to extend the leg. So I might still have a bend in the knee here, and that's fine. And then what I'm going to do, now that I've found that opening, flexing back on the toes as well, getting broad out over the sole of the foot, I'm going to lower myself down but try to maintain that stretch. It's really going to intensify that opening in the hamstring. Let's do that one more time. Inhale. Lift the hips with that left leg, which is really warm in this quad as well. Draw the right knee in, even if you need to bend the knee a little bit. Countering that by pressing through the heel, flexing back on the toes, then lower that hip down. And the weight of the body is going to help sort of intensify that hamstring stretch without any pressure in the lower back. And if you really really want to go for it, you're really committed to the pose, we could even extend the left leg. You might need to keep a bend in that knee if you like. It might take away more than it adds, so play around with that. If there's any tension in the lower back, I wouldn't go any further. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Last one, inhale. And let's release. Perfect. We'll have a go on the other side here. So making sure the sole of that foot is down relatively close to the hip underneath the knee. Bring the left leg in. Bind the fingers behind the back of the left knee there. So first things first, I'm not just extending the leg and putting pressure on the lower back, I'm actually bringing the upper thigh in towards my left ribs. And then I'm saying to press into the heel. But first, before I do that, I'm actually pressing into the right heel, lifting the hips up off the ground, and then creating that stretch. Once you're confident and you're settled into the posture, start to lower the hips back down onto the mat, but maintaining that opening in the hamstring. So the pelvis is going to want to rock forward a little bit here as the tailbone makes contact with the mat. But we're resisting by pressing into the heel, flexing back on the toes, and guiding that upper thigh towards the ribs with our hands. Take a deep breath in. Long exhale. We've got 2 more breaths. Inhale, smooth breaths. Exhale. Inhaling. And exhale, release. Let's take a deep breath in, roll the pelvis forward, arch the back. Exhale, ground down, bring the knees in towards the body, squeeze the knees in. One more of those, inhale. Exhale, squeeze in. And release. Soles of the foot, soles of the feet, down on the mat. Press into the palms, straight up onto hands and knees here. Now, however that happens for you, it doesn't have to be too graceful. Pressing the knuckles down into the mat, making sure you're supported through the upper body here. Extend the right leg and really flex the toes back here. So what we want to do is actually press the heel towards the floor and flex the toes back towards the shin and just open up over the calf there. And you can sort of play around with how you rest the weight into this left knee, if you want to rest the weight into it at all. I'm sort of pressing into the palms and pressing myself towards the back of the mat. But most of the work's happening as I actually draw my toes towards my shin, press the heel towards the mat here, taking a deep breath in. And I'm not falling into the lower back, I'm tucking the tailbone a little bit. Exhale. Inhale. And exhaling, we might just bring this right knee in. It doesn't matter whether you do it on the inhale or the exhale. We're not getting too crazy on the vinyasing and the matching of breath. Once again, always being mindful of the asymmetries of our body. So we don't want to go into poses expecting the same thing from each limb or each part of the body. Now I like to sort of tuck the tailbone and imagine I'm pointing my tailbone down the length of my left leg here, and then that energy is pressing down into the heel and flexing back towards the shin with the toes. I'm staying long in the neck. Couple of breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And we'll bring that left knee back in as we exhale. Once again, it doesn't matter too much. From here, I'm going to tuck the toes, sink back down over the heels, extend the arms out, keeping the elbows lifted. Coming back up onto hands and knees. Set up nicely for downward dog now. Knees are bent to begin with. I'm going to bend into one knee and then extend the opposite leg and just sort of interchangeably moving between legs, pedaling out through the heels. I'm making it sound as technical as possible, but I'm bending one leg, straightening the other. Let the hips rock from side to side. Feel one side of the body expand, one side lengthen, one side shorten. Feel one leg lengthen, one leg shorten. Stay with it. Deep breath in. Smooth transition. Long exhale. Probably warming into the upper body a little bit now. That's fine. And let's come back to a neutral position, neutral weight through both feet here. Bring the knees back down to the mat. Extend the right leg. Up onto the fingertips if you like. And I like to exhale as I bring the right knee through. Complements the movement nicely. And straight away, let's flow into a nice hamstring opening here as I press the chest forward. I'm going to exhale. Now for the purpose of this posture, we can take a few different variations. I'm going to keep the spine long. So I'm going to keep myself relatively elevated. Now we could even have a block on either side here, which is handy for me because I've got little T-Rex arms. And then just bringing myself back and flexing back on the toes. And then inhale coming forwards. I can inhale and lift. Still scooping under with the tailbone. And then exhale. Lifting the toes, pressing through the heel. So we're incorporating that same movement in some opening up the calf here and the hamstring as well. Now, I'm bringing my ribs towards my right thigh, but I'm also lengthening tailbone and crown away from one another. So length, crown to tailbone, tailbone to heel, heel to toe. So I'm kind of making this triangular sort of vibe going on here. Take a deep breath in, long exhale, inhaling, exhaling. Let's do one more inhale, exhale. Now for a little bit of lower back release, you're going to come forward, take a deep breath in. Once again, press off the blocks. You might even have them on the higher setting. And then exhale, probably won't need the blocks for this one. Lower yourself down backs of the hands on the mat, crown of the head is sort of just melting down over the right thigh. We're still probably in a nice hamstring stretch here. Pelvis is rolling forward, lower ribs pressing into the right thigh, lower right ribs. Deep breath in, long exhale. Perfect. I'm just going to slide my hands forward, make sure these blocks are out of the way. And just transition straight back into downward dog. Take a moment here, notice the difference between right leg, left leg. Potentially that right leg starting to free up a little bit. You might feel a little bit more movement, a little bit less resistance there. Take a deep breath in. Let's exhale, come down to the knees. Or you could step straight through if you like. It's nice to come down to the knees. Not getting too crazy with things. Have it the blocks nearby. In fact, I'll bring those blocks back. Inhale, lift the chest. Now let's start off with the heel stacked above the knee stacked above the heel here. And then keeping length in the spine. I'm not sort of in a back bend, I'm just staying long in the spine. And flexing back on the toes, big opening here. Maybe a slight bend in the knee. Wrapping the elbows in. So as I come back down, I can press off the fingertips, lift the chest. A little bit of release into the right hip flexor here even. Tucking the tailbone, more looking for a little bit of lower back release though, or lengthening. Now once again, left ribs melting down towards left thigh. Drawing the toes back towards the shin, nice big opening. Now you don't want to feel the stretch too close to the back of the knee. We don't want to be stretching tendons. We want to feel it in the meat of the leg here. So playing around with a bend in the knee to customize where the stretch is located. Obviously breathing, obviously focusing. Of course, because we're yogis, we're never distracted. We take a deep breath in, long exhale. Let's inhale, come forward. And exhale. That's it. We're just going to hold for a couple of breaths here. And play around with how the weight is distributed through the body as well. You might find that you're leaning over into the right hip. Try to keep the weight equal, or at least the right knee underneath the right hip. Lengthening spine. Breathing deeply but steadily. Remember that nice triangular sort of vibe here. Heel to hip, hip to crown, and crown down to the toes. Deep breath in. Long exhale. Let's place the sole of the foot back down. Take a deep breath in. We can get the blocks out of the way now if you like. We're coming into this nice sort of more passive version of the pose here. And you can lift the toes if you'd prefer. I like to just melt down over the thigh. There's still forward momentum coming down over the back of my neck, my spine here, and I'm still gently pressing the left ribs down into the left thigh. But more just looking for release. Length from crown to tailbone now. Take a deep breath in. Long exhale. And then slide the hands forward. Tuck the right toe, and we might just transition back into downward dog here. Once again, walking out through the heels. And just checking back into the body, noticing if there's any sort of mobility freeing up in the hips, the hamstrings. The body's warming up now, the front body, the shoulders, the side body's probably warming up. Wrap the sides in. Let's hold our downward dog. You can play around with the distancing if you like. If you need to bring it forward a little bit, bend the knees more, that's fine. If you feel like walking the feet away from the body a touch, that's cool as well. Just make sure you find that really nice length in the spine and then put some pressure down through the heels. 3 breaths here. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And walking the feet towards the hands now. Big bend in the knees. What I'm going to do from here is I'm going to place one block in front of me and place the other block under the heel of the left foot. So it's going to be a nice big bend in this left knee. I'm going to straighten out the right leg, not locking the knee, but straightening out. Now I can have the block here, I can move it away, I might not need it. I'm just going to bring the right hand up to the right hip. It might be on the highest setting, and that's cool. I'll bring myself into a nice opening here, nice twist. But I'm opening up over the hamstring. I'm gently guiding my left ribs down into the bent knee there, or into the bent leg. But I'm also twisting in, so I'm opening up over this right hip as well. Now, this hand can just sort of chill here on my lower back. It can sit on my hip. Or I can even go for a bit of a bind here and reach all the way around and wrap it into this hip crease. And as we sort of adjust to the pose, we can start to bring the hand further down towards the floor and start to lift the shoulders more. Really firmly pressing through the heel and through the ball of this right foot. Deep breath in. Long exhale. Inhaling. Exhaling. Release. Right hand first. Wherever that right hand is, we'll place it back down. And just sort of prepare to swap sides here. Now, big bend in that right knee. Extending left leg. Once again, you may need the block, so you'll be making sure it's underneath or nearby to the right hand, lifting up. Taking this twist, not so much about the twist, but the nice length in that left leg, and guiding the right ribs down into the right thigh. Try not to fall into the shoulder too much with this right ear. Try to stay long in the spine. Now, you can aim for sort of a half bind here if we like, which is a nice opening into the chest also. And if you're starting to adjust to the posture and you want to take it further, you can bring the hands down to the mat or lower the block setting. Once again, always practicing to your ability. Take a deep breath in and a long exhale. The last one, smooth breath here. Long exhale. First releasing this left hand. And finding the block or the mat, I'm going to take this this block away from underneath the right heel. Step the right foot back here. Spin around, both feet are now parallel. Doesn't matter about the width of the stance, so don't get too caught up on that. What we're looking for is just a little bit of lower back release, so I'm just going to walk my hands over, my right hand in particular, over towards the left foot. Take a couple of breaths here. And you can still tilt the pelvis forward and find a nice hamstring opening here if you like. And your hands might be on a block. You might shift the block over to the other side. Remember, always adjusting to your anatomy. Couple of breaths. And then coming back over to a neutral position. I'm going to walk the hands all the way back to the front of the mat, spin over onto the back foot. That's the right foot for me. Sliding back and sinking back down over the heels. Balasana, child's pose. Maybe resting the crown of the head on the mat, letting the shoulder blades soften away from the spine here. Taking a couple of breaths. Letting any tension melt away. Slide the hands forward. Coming back up onto hands and knees, and we're just going to shift into a reclining position now. Take a breath in, lift the chest once more, lowering down. Now, having one of your blocks nearby, you could even have both blocks nearby, depending on how you feel about the next posture. We can lift the hips up off the ground. Start off on the lowest setting. Make sure the coccyx and the hip crest is resting on the block. It's not up too high, nowhere near the lower back. From here we're just going to lift the knees and bring the knees in towards the lower ribs. Kind of elevated Uttanasana. And just taking a couple of breaths here. Maybe softening the gaze and closing the eyes for a moment. And then gently extending the legs away from the body. Maybe the soles of the feet make contact with the mat first, and then walking the feet away from the hips. If full extension is creating any tension in the lower back, soles of the feet on the ground is fine. Otherwise, we're just going to take about 10 breaths here. Then take a deep breath in, final breath. And then walk the feet back towards the hips. Without too much effort, just removing that block, lowering yourself back down onto the mat. Gentle movement of release here, maybe just rocking the hips from side to side. You can walk the feet out a little bit wider than the hips if you like. And then extending the feet away from the body, finding a savasana. And just letting it all fall away now. If you're feeling any residual tension or discomfort, you can always elevate the back of the head or the knees, placing the blocks underneath the knees. Having the feet slightly wider than the hips is good for releasing tension in the lower back. Let your breath soften here. And just let yourself fall into some stillness for a few moments. And then bringing some movement back into the body. Maybe gently walking the feet back towards the body, maybe reaching the hands up overhead. Maybe taking an intuitive twist or some other intuitive movement if that is what you need, if that's what your body needs. Otherwise, we're making our way up into a seated position. Whoa. Sealing our practice, as always, with some gratitude for our ability to change and learn and grow and adapt. For the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe, we'll take a deep breath in. Namaste.